More on our deep dive into the Australian Tax Office and its pursuit of Jade Jiang, who has been exonerated after a 10-year battle with the taxman.
I've been robbed, I've been pushed in a hole, dealt with unfairly. My identity has been...
We all pay our taxes. Some of us grumble about it. Some of us do it with a sense of civic duty, but we all do it. And we do it because we believe we live in a country governed by the rule of law. We believe that the institutions in charge of collecting those taxes, the Australian Taxation Office, the ATO, are bound by that same law. We trust that they will act with integrity, that they will be fair, that they will be just. We believe that if you're accused of something, you have the right to defend yourself, the right to silence, the right to a fair go. That's the Australia we all believe in. But what happens when that trust is shattered? What happens when the people with all the power, the ones who can seize your assets and ruin your life, decide that the law doesn't apply to them? What happens when they don't just make a mistake, but they actively, deliberately and maliciously lie to destroy you? Today, we're not talking about a simple accounting error. We're talking about a case so shocking, so corrupt, that a Supreme Court Justice himself declared that the ATO has brought the administration of justice into disrepute. We're talking about falsified evidence. We're talking about hidden documents. We're talking about a years-long campaign of oppression against an innocent Australian. And we're talking about the government agency that did it and the Commonwealth prosecutors who let them get away with it. This is a story that should send a shiver down the spine of every single taxpayer in this country. The mainstream media has touched on this, but they're too scared to call it what it is: corruption. Systemic, rotten to the core corruption. They're afraid of losing access, of upsetting the powerful. We're not. This channel is our front line. We are the resistance, armed with nothing but the truth and a camera. And we can only do it because of you. Our Patreon supporters are the fuel in our engine. If you've had a gutful of the lies and the cover-ups, if you want to help us drag these mongrels into the light, then join us. The link is in the description. Every member is a bullet in the fight for truth. Now let's get into it. Our story begins with a medical researcher, a woman the court calls Julie Clarke, to protect her from the very people who were supposed to protect her. Julie was working on a groundbreaking therapeutic, a chemical that had the potential to treat cancer and obesity. To fund this, she got a $185,000 investment from a group called the Brisbane Angels back in 2016. Later, she applied for a research and development tax incentive, claiming she'd spent over $11 million on the project. The R&D tax incentive is designed to encourage innovation, to help Aussie companies create the future. It's our money, taxpayer money, being reinvested into progress. But in the hands of the ATO, it became a weapon. When they saw Julie Clarke's $11 million claim, they didn't see a potential breakthrough in cancer treatment. They saw a nail and they brought out the sledgehammer. The discrepancy was huge, no doubt. But the process for resolving that should have been an audit, a discussion, a request for more documents. Instead, they went straight for the jugular. Instead of a normal audit, the ATO launched a full-blown criminal investigation. But they didn't tell her that. They called her in for a compulsory interview, telling her it was just to clarify gaps in her application. The judge later called this misleading. They told her she did not have the right to silence. They told her if she didn't answer their questions, she'd be committing a crime. So she talked. She answered everything. What she didn't know was that she was being tricked. The ATO was using its civil powers to conduct a criminal investigation, something the Supreme Court Justice said they had no legal authority to do. They unlawfully stripped her of her fundamental right to silence. They recorded everything she said and then used it to build a criminal case against her. It was a setup from the very beginning. A trap? sprung by the agency we are all legally required to trust. At the heart of this web of deceit was one man, a TO investigator, Anthony Rains.
I cringe at the name Anthony Rains. I cringe at the word ATO.
This wasn't just a case of an overzealous bureaucrat. The Supreme Court found that Rains engaged in at least 10 separate acts of misconduct. This is a man who a justice of the Supreme Court found to be evasive in the witness box, a man who shifted uncomfortably when asked the hard questions. This is the man the ATO sent to investigate an innocent Australian. What did he do? He didn't just hide evidence that proved Julie's innocence, and there was plenty of it, he falsified it. Let's be clear about what this means. When Rains altered that expense sheet, removing the words approved by the board, he was manufacturing a lie. He was creating a false narrative that Julie was acting alone, without authority. When he was involved in preparing a false witness statement, he was suborning perjury. He was getting someone to lie for the government, and when he lied in affidavits to get search warrants, he was committing a fraud upon the court itself. He was tricking judges into giving him the power to invade a citizen's life based on falsehoods. This isn't just cutting corners. This is a calculated criminal campaign to frame an innocent woman. He lied in a briefing note to the Queensland Bar. He even went rogue and referred the matter to the Queensland Police for fraud, without any complaint from the investors themselves, all while hiding the evidence that showed the money had been spent on legitimate business expenses. This is not just misconduct. This is a calculated criminal campaign to frame an innocent woman, and it was all done with the full backing of the Australian Taxation Office. You might think, surely this is just one bad apple, a rogue investigator. But where were the checks and balances? Where was the Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions, the CDPP? They're the ones who are supposed to review the evidence and decide if a case is strong enough to go to trial. Well, their role in this is just as disgusting. The CDPP is supposed to be the final gatekeeper, the guardian of justice that ensures only fair and winnable cases proceed. They are meant to be independent, but in this case, they acted like the ATO's personal law firm. For years, they rubber-stamped the abuse. Every time Julie Clark's lawyers presented them with the truth, with the compelling evidence that the case was a sham, the CDPP had a choice. They could have done their job. They could have looked at the evidence impartially and said, hang on, this stinks. They could have protected a citizen from the oppressive power of the state. Instead, they chose to be complicit. They chose to be part of the oppression. They chose to let an innocent woman twist in the wind for years. Her life, career, and finances in ruins. The Supreme Court Justice found there was no case to answer. It was obvious to anyone who looked. But the CDPP, the very office meant to uphold justice, aligned themselves with a corrupt ATO investigator and kept the oppressive prosecution going. Why? Was it incompetence? Or was it something more sinister? Were they trying to protect the ATO? Were they trying to justify the years and resources already wasted? Whatever the reason, they became complicit. They became part of the oppression. The judge said Julie Clark must have been absolutely fearful of being unjustly convicted, which would carry a sentence of several years in jail, and she must have felt no one was listening to her. She was screaming into the void, and the people who were supposed to listen were the ones holding her head underwater. And if you think this is a one-off, you haven't been paying attention. This isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a terrifying pattern of abuse by the ATO. Remember Richard Boyle? The ATO whistleblower who exposed their aggressive, unethical debt collection tactics back in 2018? He revealed how they were instructed to seize money from taxpayers' bank accounts, sometimes without even properly notifying them. He was a hero who spoke out to protect ordinary Australians. And what did the government do? They charged him with 66 criminal offences. They dragged him through the courts for 7 long years, a process that left him, in his own words, broken, physically, mentally and financially. Just this year, a judge finally threw the case out, giving him no conviction and saying blowing the whistle can be a tough gig. No kidding. From Richard Boyle being prosecuted for telling the truth to Julie Clark being prosecuted with lies, a picture emerges of an agency that is out of control, an agency that believes it is above the law. And what was the ATO's response to this damning Supreme Court judgment? Did they apologise? Did they fire the investigator? No. A top ATO boss sent an internal email to staff saying, "We are providing appropriate support to employees who may be directly impacted by this judgment. They're supporting the very people who a judge found had brought the administration of justice into disrepute." It's a slap in the face to every Australian. It's a betrayal of our trust. And it proves, beyond any doubt, that the rot goes right to the top. This is what happens when government agencies are given too much power and not enough oversight. They become bullies, they become corrupt, and innocent people pay the price. Justice Paul Smith, in his judgment, gave us all a stark warning. He said, unless the courts can rely on the integrity of government investigators and institutions, then our system of justice is put at significant risk. In this case, justice has been put at risk. He's right. Our entire system is at risk, and we cannot stand by and let it happen. If you're as outraged as we are, then stand with us. Join our Patreon. Share this video. Make some noise. Let them know that we are watching, and we will not be silent. To see the latest Australian crisis, click this video here